Hello and welcome. It's great to see you again. Okay, so you're interested in learning about the 8 steps in selling a home, and you're now on step 7, the final details. At this point, you are probably wondering, what are the final details? Who is responsible for them? What needs to be done? And who pays for them? These questions need to be answered, and we'll do so right after this. Hi, I'm Bob Weidrick. I'm a Missouri licensed realtor with Coldwell Banker Realty Gundaker in St. Louis, Missouri. Please give this video a like, subscribe to my channel, and click that bell icon for insights and tips into the residential real estate market. I publish a new video every Wednesday, and you don't want to miss a thing. So what are the final details? Who is responsible for them? What needs to be done? And who pays for it? In a broad sense, it depends on how the purchase offer was written. Most of the details are the responsibility of the home buyer. I say most because, like here in the St. Louis real estate market, the seller is usually responsible for obtaining a clear occupancy permit for the buyer with the local authorities. The local authorities could be the city government, the county government, or even the local fire department. Is there a fee involved? Yes, there is. For example, here in the Arnold, Missouri area, an occupancy permit is required by both the City of Arnold and Rock Community Fire Protection District, the local fire department. At this time, both permits are $50 each, so it's $100 for both permits. The occupancy permit requirements will vary from area to area, so it's best for you to contact your local authorities to find out the requirements for your particular area. So what are the occupancy permit requirements? In a broad sense, the occupancy permits are looking for safety issues such as electrical issues, lack of a ground fault circuit interrupter protected outlet near sinks and other water basins, double lugging in the electrical panel, appropriate smoke detectors and proper placement, carbon monoxide detectors if required, proper handrail placement with appropriate baluster width, support issues on decks, tripping hazards, etc. This is not an all-inclusive list. It will vary depending on what your local authorities deem to be a safety issue. All of these final details are dependent on how the purchase offer was written. The seller should check with the local authorities to determine what is required for an occupancy permit, or even if an occupancy permit is required. It's not required in all areas. The listing agent should advise the seller that a due diligence process occurs between the purchase offer, acceptance date, and the closing or settlement date, along with what the buyer will do, such as order inspections, obtain homeowner's insurance, order the title and survey, submit documents to the lender, and order the appraisal to obtain loan commitment. There are different time frames on each, and each is part of the due diligence process. So, who is responsible for them? As I briefly touched on earlier, most, if not all, of the final details are the responsibility of the home buyer, and the buyer's agent should advise the buyer on the most common due diligence items in the process. In the St. Louis real estate market, that involves items such as inspections on the building, homeowner's insurance, title work, survey if required, loan commitment, and the different time frames involved in each of these. So how long does it take to close on a home after the offer's been accepted? Here in the St. Louis market, it typically takes less than 30 days. In the due diligence process, the buyer is responsible for items such as desired inspections. What do they want to have inspected? The desired inspections may include, but not limited to, a building inspection, a pest inspection, radon gas inspection, sewer lateral inspection, and natural gas if so equipped. In rural areas, this may have a well and a septic inspection and propane gas inspection if equipped. The fee for these inspections are typically due when the inspections are done and are the buyer's responsibility. Once the inspections are completed, If the buyer wishes to continue with the purchase of the home, a list of desired repairs will be sent to the seller to be negotiated. As far as the homeowner insurance, the buyer is responsible for obtaining a 1-year home insurance policy for the home and providing that to their closing company. The title and survey is usually about a 25-day period from the acceptance date. Here, the title company will check for any claims against the property to ensure the home is free of any encumbrances or clouds on the title. The survey, if requested, will be done at this time. There is usually a fee of a few $100s for this and is typically paid at closing. The buyer's loan commitment is typically due a few business days prior to closing. One of the last things on the due diligence list that the buyer will do is called the final walkthrough. Here, the buyer will go through the listing to make sure that the home that they are buying is indeed in the condition they expect and that the seller has removed all of their belongings and the items that were agreed to remain are present and those that were agreed to have removed are gone. Typically, the final walkthrough is done a day or two prior to closing. Now, this sounds like a lot to keep track of, and it can be overwhelming. The listing agent will manage this due diligence process for the seller so the important details are not missed. The due diligence process mentioned is based upon the St. Louis Realtors contract, and the dates are based upon the acceptance date written in the purchase offer or other documents. Check with your agent to see when the acceptance date is. So now you know the 7th step in selling a home, the final details. But do you know about the 8th and final step, the closing? That's next time. Stay tuned.